Alright, this chaos always happens. It's just usually just me.
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Alrighty. Hey guys. Are you right? Having a mouthful?
I just sitting here.
Hey guys, let's talk about books. For today's chaos, I'm joined by my husband, Ash, who is an intensely avid Kindle Unlimited reader. So I thought we would grill him on the things that he's read on Kindle Unlimited in the past 6 months, starting from the start of March, and see, one, if you remember them, and two, if they were any good.
We'll see. See how I go.
Alrighty. Would you tell everybody the things, like, if I said, what do you read, what would you say?
Right. So my stipulations are fantasy, lit RPG, Western cultivation, sometimes Eastern cultivation as well, but a lot of it is more, someone gets hit, someone gets a mouthful of blood, someone insults someone, mouthful of blood, they get really tedious really fast. And they're basically the same story over and over and over again. So if you've read one, you pretty much read the entire genre of them. Otherwise, I have minimum recommendations. Yeah, I know, right? I have minimum recommendations of at least 400 pages for an Amazon book. Most of the stuff I read is self-published, simply because publishers don't publish them. So, see how we go.
Okay, if we were in a real bookshop with, like, real dead trees, what would you say that you would buy?
Probably fantasy, if I can get a hold of it. Mostly epic fantasy.
Yeah. So all the stuff on my shelves, which belongs to Ash, is the Wheel of Time.
Over there. You can't see it.
Yeah, I moved a lot of it away. But it's the Wheel of Time, Terry Goodkind, Terry Pratchett, big epic fantasy series. But we don't like politics, so you haven't even started like Game of Thrones because it's not the one.
No.
It's not the one.
I just get angry.
Oh, also Scott Lynch.
Yes.
Technically belongs to you, but we're married, so it belongs to us now. I have no idea how many books are in this collection. I've got the laptop because it's easier to view your Kindle Unlimited borrowing history on desktop. And we're just going to go through and see what there is. And I might do a running count of how many books there are in the past 6 months. Actually, it's currently September, so I should start at February, shouldn't I? February to August.
It just makes it worse.
It does make it worse. God, you have to scroll a long way. Okay. The first one is Silver Fox and the Western Hero Warrior's Path, a lit RPG / cultivation something.
So essentially what book is that? That's book what in the series?
It does not say.
It's at the bottom of the book there.
Book 6.
Book 6. Right, so that's the current book, I'm pretty sure. So this series is basically... How do I do this? Do I give us an overview of the series?
I mean, no spoilers, but yes. What is lit RPG and cultivation?
So lit RPG is mostly described as it has leveling. So a character kills something, does something, gains experience, gains a level.
Like a computer game.
RPG except literature.
RPG means role-playing game.
Yeah. So cultivation is essentially a progression power system where you either similar, beat something up, absorb power from something, gain more personal power. Whether that's through absorbing atmospheric power or it really depends on what the author's done. Most of them are, though, either it's a chi or q, depending on how it's done. A lot of authors now are making up their own words for the power source.
So it's Chinese.
Yes, Chinese cultural cultivation style stuff. The Western style stuff is a bit different because they don't use a great deal of the Chinese style world building where there is still sex and cults and all that kind of stuff, but you don't have the same level of cult architecture as the Chinese have, where it's heavily regimented, but the same system is still in place where it's might makes right, basically, at the end of the day.
Right, so book 6?
This particular series is this is a reread of this series, so it's kind of all jumbled. I tend to read series in blocks. So what tends to happen with me is I'll read however many books of that series are available in one big hit, so it all gets a bit...
It's like when you like binge a TV show and then you can't remember what season things happened in.
Essentially, I read the entire series of The World of Time within a couple of, month?
I would say a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks, yeah. And so it's all kind of like, which happened in what book is not really there. The entire story is there because she keeps going to say stuff, and I'm like, when did that? Has this happened
also,
yet?
I'm like, no
and she's
spoilers.
like, no spoilers, stop. I'm like, fine, I won't say anything anymore.
So we don't talk about them all the time. So you binged this, so I will read you the start of the blurb. It says, somehow Alex had done it. He'd managed to cheat death yet again, slipping past slavers, assassins, even an opposing army, all for the sake of a city in peril and the girl he loved.
I know, right? It sounds really, really cringy, as most of these descriptions will.
Now all he had to do was climb 10,000 steps.
So this book in this series starts with the main character essentially arriving at a sect. He's running away from essentially the gods of the world, and the whole series is basically he gets shunted from his reality into this reality and then wakes up in a boat in basically a barrel of poison. Goes from there, so you can say fun times ahead. He eventually gets killed many times, but doesn't seem to stick as the books keep going. Essentially, this book is he's just escaped from a very strong cultivator. He is going into this sect specifically with the whole goal of his cultivation path is broken, and he's been promised a guide for a future advancement if he can get into this sect, which is a giant school, with a book hidden somewhere in its massive library. He doesn't know where it is. He's just been guaranteed by the gods that it is there. Basically, he made a bet with them and they lost. He's attempting to get into the school, which is the 10,000 steps thing. Basically, it's an aptitude test for the school. So him going up the steps, the further you go up the steps, the more pressure it has. And then if you don't make it a certain degree, you basically turn into a slave. Which he gets to the top, gets kicked off and becomes a slave. Go figure.
Spoilers!
If you don't want spoilers, I can't help you with that. I'll try and reduce it as much as possible. This is actually a series I highly recommend if you'd like a bit of a... It's a very good mix of lit RPG and cultivation, heavily factoring cultivation. Lit RPG is there, but it's not... It's kind of basic elements. It's quite there at the start, a lot of progression. The lit RPG side of this is mostly to do with showing advancement through the character in a graph. Because people like graphs.
So when you say like a book has to be 400 pages long, it's not 400 pages of text.
No. So the rule is basically Kindle Unlimited gives you a estimated page count of the book. So usually on most of the stuff I read, it is between 400 to 800 pages. You don't tend to get much longer than that on Kindle Unlimited. I'm starting to see a lot of 200-page books, which for me is... He's an hour or two.
But they churn them out fast.
And they churn them out. And usually what it is it's literally an 800-page book they've cut into chunks so they can put it up once every few months because Amazon Kindle wants that return to get you up into the high recommendation lists. If you
they're just playing the algorithm.
Yeah. If you don't do that, you basically don't get put onto recommendations.
All right, shall we move on?
Let's move on.
The next one is 1,000 Li, the Third Realm, Book 8. You've read a lot of these ones.
Yeah, so this is from Tao Wong. Tao Wong is okay author. I'm not going to say he's fantastic. I'm not going to say he's bad.
You keep reading them.
I like the story.
Yeah.
And they're a nice story. Look, his books are getting shorter, which again is a very common thing that's happening where they're just trying to churn them out. These books get a bit confusing because of the way the story's done. I remember the last book is another book I've read since this one, or two. So... Where is he at?
As Wu Ying chases the traces of the heaven's wind, grasping at the truth, wow.
She skipped a bit.
I did, but no one cares about the political background. As Wu Ying chases the traces of the heaven's wind, grasping at the truth it so elusively dangles before him, he must also contend with his own place under the heavens or among them. This blurb needs a copy editor. Anyway.
The book is similar. I've got a very, very high tolerance for bad grammar, bad spelling, stuff that simply doesn't make sense. Where you look at the sentence and go, I know the author is trying to say something here. What that something is a bit up in the air, but I can forgive that. It's kind of like coffee. I can drink really good coffee. I can drink really bad coffee. I don't like the bad coffee. If I have to, I'll drink it. But, it's how we go.
All right, so can you remember what happens there?
In that particular book, no. That's unfortunately, that series is one where it literally takes, it finishes and then immediately the next book continues on. Stuff happens, basically. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Arcane Night Book 2, Order and Chaos by Timothy McGowen.
So this is a epic lit RPG. I don't know where the epic side of it comes in. I don't remember this book being very long.
Epic is also, like, how deep does the fantasy world go?
Yeah.
Is it like castles and dragons and monsters and magic?
Arcane Knight, to a degree, yes, but skims the edge of it. I wouldn't call this a real epic fantasy. Although, to be honest, I haven't been able to find a decent epic fantasy written, in the last 15, 20 years?
Yeah, even traditional published stuff
It's
you're not
just,
vibing with.
No. I'm a traditionalist with my epic fantasy. I like the world really heavily detailed. I like information. I like, stuff happens. I'm not a fan of, say, Robert Jordan's introduction style where he spends 90 pages getting them out of the town. But you get a nice overview.
The Two Rivers.
Oh, the Two Rivers, yay! But he ramps up and then it continues on. And, I'm happy with that. If you can get past an initial blah, then so be it.
Once you get out of the Shire.
Yeah. It kicks off. Rightio.
Alright, next we've got The Path of Ascension 2 by C. Mantis.
Rightio. So The Path of Ascension is a lit RPG cultivation, which is slightly different from a lit RPG / cultivation. So this particular one is... The system is heavily lit RPG, monsters, experience, like that kind of thing. But the leveling system is cultivation. The difference in this is a pure lit RPG is you kill something, experience, level 1 to 2. Level 3 to 4, you progress that way. Cultivation style lit RPG is where you absorb energy and then you go into a higher realm. So you have stages and then a massive realm. And realms are a big thing where... It's an entirely different stage of reality. So you go within a realm, you're fairly even, high, low end of the realm, and then you jump a realm, and basically anyone below you is Swiss cheese.
Is
basically.
it a bit like when you change zones in a game and it's all completely different, and it's like the zone is like people at your level?
Yes. Yeah. But there's a massive gradient. In leveling, there's always a slight gradient. Everything power is progressive, slight increments as you go up. Like obviously someone who's level 40 and someone who's level 1, there's going to be that power difference, and that's essentially what happens between realms. So there's a massive gulf of power. That particular book is actually, that's probably one of my favourite series at the moment. Definitely worth a read if you're into that style of thing. Elements of bits of all sorts of stuff in that series.
Next one is the Jade Phoenix Saga number 2, Revealed by D.I. Freed.
So this is pure cultivation. I would say probably more pure cultivation. This has a female main character as opposed to a male lead, which makes cultivation series very different in this regard. In common series, you don't see much difference in a Western story between a male and a female protagonist. Cultivation series changes the whole dynamic. Most of the female series are what we call revenge stories, where the character's been basically treated like shit for her entire life, and then something changes where she gets a head start or she gets power to overcome adversity, essentially. This is the second book in a series. Quite a long story. A lot of detail in the background. I was umming and ahhing about reading the second one of this series, simply because it is an Eastern cultivation story, so more Chinese style, but elements of lit RPG make it a bit more Western. So it's so-so. It's a nice story, but it was almost outside of what I normally read. Next
is System Universe Book 2, Torith by SunriseCV.
This is a good series. I like this one. Fairly new. They've been releasing these books fairly consistently for the last 12 months. I think I'm waiting on book 4. I think end of October, I think, is the next one. Something like that. Book 4 or book 5? Might be book 5. Yeah.
We'll find out when we get closer off this list.
So this is a progression power style lit RPG, leveling, no realm system, straight level 1, 2, 3. This is interesting though because the character starts off a bit differently than what we'd normally associate with this. So a lot of lit RPG stuff is literally apocalyptic. The world has just ended because of insert power system coming along and saying, hi everyone. This is similar, except this has already happened to Earth. This is a few years after, and then this main character then gets shunted to a different planet. They already have a system in place. It's been in place for a very long time. he doesn't get along with the system very well. He thinks it's a bit of an asshole.
I feel like that's a common theme of stuff you've
Most
been telling me.
most stuff like this. Look, you can only do so much with a lit RPG story to keep it within the bounds of the lit RPG system.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got your tropes.
This one's pretty good though because he is overpowered as hell at the start, and it's just about a story about him making his way in this new world without all of the higgledy-piggledy of, oh shit, I'm going to die every 2 seconds. So it's a bit more relaxed in that regard. I mean, he still beats the crap out of everything, which is what you do with an overpowered character, but it doesn't...
It's my favourite character to play.
I mean, how else do you play? But it doesn't impact the story in a negative way where stuff doesn't happen. So it's a nice read.
Alright. We're still in February, by the way.
We've got a lot to go, don't
We've got a lot to go, and we're still like 20 minutes recording.
Yay!
Okay. The next is Unbound Book 6, Expanse by Nicoli Gonnella.
Okay, really like this series. Once again, this is lit RPG / cultivation. A lot of this stuff will be really good. Recommend it. It's a very good progressive power story. Nice characters. It's got a nice world to it. It's basically saving the world, essentially. It's a nice read.
Next is Rise of Mankind, Book 4, Age of Steel by Cajiao. That'll be on screen.
That'll be on screen. So, yeah, pronouncing that. Age of Steel. The Rise of Mankind books are okay, an interesting take on things.
The cover's cool.
Yeah.
It's the coolest cover so far.
Pretty sure. Yes. So this is a slightly different. This is a Dungeon Master series. So the main character. So it starts off as a lit RPG apocalypse style book. The main character encounters a dungeon core, and it's about him creating somewhere safe, fighting bits and pieces while becoming essentially a god.
As you do.
As you do. Nice series. Couple of bits of it got a bit weird. It's like a lot of this stuff where I think the authors have maybe 2 or 3 books planned and then it just keeps getting along, and so you get lost a little bit along the way. But a nice series.
Battle Mage Farmer, Book 4, Fermentation by Seth Ring.
So this is actually a really nice series. I know, right? I was really kind of wondering where the author was going with a title like that originally. And then when I read the original blurb, I'm like, I'm not sure where this is going. Gave it a shot. A really, really nice series. This is a power progression, but in a really odd way. So the main character is overpowered as hell, basically retired off the front lines of war and becomes a farmer. And then just does shit with power because, well, why not? Essentially, he's trying to save the planet. Nice story, worth a read if you like that kind of stuff.
Next we have Divine Apostasy, Book 7, Shadow's 7th Step by AFK. Book 7.
Book 7. I'm trying to remember that series.
Ruin wants nothing more than to relax in the third secret and recover from the terrible damage to his core.
Okay, right, yes. Good series, this one. This series started off very odd. Good odd, but odd. Progressed along the lines, added some really nice characters, got some really nice world depth. This, again, is about saving the world, even though it doesn't seem like that at the start. This is actually saving the universe-style story. But, again, I've been told no spoilers. So
no spoilers.
If you like a kind of progression style, character gets into a lot of shit-style stuff, this is a good one.
Silver Fox and the Western Hero, Warrior's Peril, which is Book 7 in this series, by M.H. Johnson.
So again, good series. Recommended if you're into cultivation style stuff. Even if you're not, it's worth a shot. You never know what you might like.
Yeah, we talked about that series already. Next we have Scale and Sea, Book 1, Sovereign Soul by James T. Callum and K.H. Sohmer. Declan will become a villain to rival the gods. Somebody should probably tell him.
This series is essentially a portal, what they call a portal fantasy. So character goes to different worlds via portals of some description. Essentially, the premise of this series is mages power up by going to different realities. They do this by going through a portal, but it's not their physical self that goes through the portal. It's like a kind of a carbon copy that starts at 0 again. So they take all their memories and stuff with them, and then they have to start at scratch with the power system on the realm that they turn up in. Nice series. It's just a bit... It's different. It's a nice take on things. It's just different.
Get comfy on me chair. Alright. The next... Oh, this box. It's probably me pushing away. The next one we've got is Vigil Bound, Book 1, Vigil's Justice by James Hunter. You're going to tell me you have no memory of this place.
I've got a feeling this is one of those series that I decided to stop.
Magic weapons, deadly monsters, epic quests, or just another day in the life of a Vigil. Oh God, Boyd Knight found his calling when he joined the Marines and qualified for the Elite Force Recon. That sounds terrible.
Well, in the next series, he wakes up butt naked in the cave. Okay, right.
It's really not my cup of tea.
Yeah, this book was okay as a book. I wasn't a fan. I think I may have given the second book a go.
We'll find out.
If you can see, she's flicking and flicking and flicking here, going down the list. I don't know if we have enough time. Maybe make a series of this one.
Maybe we should. Let us know if you want more art. Should we keep going?
We should keep going.
Okay. Seared, a progression cultivation fantasy by Robyn Wideman.
Is that really the next one along?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is too.
I'm not lying to you. This is the receipts. So there's Seared, Seared 2, Seared 3, Seared 4, all in a row. Can you remember any of them? The covers are cool.
The covers are cool. I'd have to look at the blurb.
Jace, Jace. God, there's no way I'd pick this book up.
Destiny of Life of Slavery, blah, blah, blah.
I reckon you picked it up because it says, Seared is an exciting coming-of-age progression and cultivation fantasy series for fans of series like Cradle, Daz and Lee, and He Who Fights with Monsters, all of which you've read.
He Who Fights with Monsters is probably one of my favourites.
We'll come to that.
We'll get there. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, no, I should. Yeah, no, there'll be two probably within that period.
Depends how we cut this video.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to it. Maybe it'll be the next one.
All right, so can you remember this at all?
Yes, slightly. Essentially, the main character is burdened with a bracer that makes... It doesn't stop him from cultivating. It makes it really, really, really hard to pull energy into his system. So essentially, he's a plebeian.
So he's got like something physical around him.
It is fused to him. He cannot remove it.
That prevents him from doing magic.
Prevents him from cultivating. So pulling in the energy of the water.
Which is magic.
To a degree. Cultivation is basically... There's two forms. There's external cultivation where you cultivate stuff and you do wacky things with powers. Everything else in cultivation is self-empowerment where you make yourself stronger physically.
Right, okay.
It's all about punching the bloke in the face harder.
Okay.
So that's a nice series. It's different, a different take on things.
Next we have another series of books all in a row. Path of the Lazy Immortal by A.P. Gore and Patricia Jones. Book 1 is Reincarnation. Book 2, Inheritance. And Book 3, Baptization. Path of the Lazy Immortal. Tell us about it.
So Path of the Lazy Immortal is a standard cultivation series. It is a Chinese cultivation without a lot of the spitting up blood nonsense. When you read an actual cultivation series from like a proper Chinese one, when they fight, instead of doing stuff like, oh look, he broke his arm, he'll take a punch to the chest and then it's like, oh, he threw up like 3 mouthfuls of blood or some bullshit. Or you insult someone and they get really angry and start spitting blood. It's a constant thing throughout the books. It gets really, really tedious. It's why I don't read them. Oh. Some of the stories are really nice. But you get to a certain point where it's like, oh, fight scene, skip.
I do that in regular fantasy too.
Makes it faster for you.
I can't picture fight scenes. They're really confusing to me, so I just keep going.
Good series. I actually think this is a translation rather than written by A.P. Gore. I'm not sure.
All right, I scroll up and there's more Path of the Lazy Immortal.
I think there's 9 books. But
there's Beast Origin Realm, 5 Firmament City, War of Clans, which is book 6, Way of Sword, which is book 7, all by A.P. Gore and Patricia Jones. Guardian of Aster Fall, book 5, Path of Stars by David North.
I think I'd put this at cultivation. The first book in this series is called Battlefield Reclaimer. I was really uncertain about what would happen with this series, but it's pretty good. It's getting slow. So the story's slowing down. There was a lot of stuff happening in the first few books, and as we're getting later into the series, it's starting to slow down a bit. The latest book was a bit faster, but a good read.
A good read? Next you've got book 16 of Painting the Mists. This one's called Heartforge by Patrick Laplante.
This is a cultivation series. It was something I couldn't find anything else to read at the time. And so I picked this because there was a few books in the series available. It's okay. It's not my type of story too much because it is kind of a repeat of stuff. After about the fourth book, it was like the same stuff's happening to the main character over and over again. So yeah, it's just different place, same shit. Different place, same shit. So not a bad series. It's actually quite good, but same again. If you can't handle that repetitive style of stuff happening, probably not your thing.
Next is Natural Laws Apocalypse, Book 6, System Shift by Tom Larcombe.
Series started off really strong. Was a nice read. This is a apocalypse fantasy. So essentially the world has turned to shit and they're trying to basically recover whatever of humanity they can. Another dungeon series where the main character is involved with I'd say dungeon, but it's not really a dungeon in this instance. It's more a city townscape thing where it started off as a safe zone and then it turned into a village and then it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as the books progress. But yeah, it's slowing down. The story's getting to the point where it's like, it's time to wind it up. And even to the point where I haven't actually read the latest installment of this. It's probably 2 books. And it's just one of those ones where it's like, you know what?
You're done.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have a couple of books in the wake of the Ravager series by Macronomicon. The Problem with Princesses, Plot Hole, and Bent and Twisted.
This is a different type of story. I was looking for something a bit different when I was reading these. Still kind of lit RPG, still kind of, fantasy-based fight story. Protagonist is getting shit happen to them all the time. Again, a lot of these stories are self-pub, so that be aware there's some bits and pieces in there. But good story overall.
Then we have Beware of Chicken 2 by Casual Farmer.
Rightio, so this is a farming cultivation story. So this is not I'm going to punch you in the face. Well, the farm animals do. The main character doesn't. So basically this is a really nice one. So essentially this is a reincarnation story. The main character reincarnates to someone who's just had the shit beaten out of him and has essentially died and he's been soul swapped into the body. Then he kind of has the memories of everything that's going on and decides, you know what? Fuck this shit, I'm out of here. It's a really nice series if you don't want something too over the top. But again, there's a lot of really over the top stuff that happens. But it's a good series. I really like it.
And that is only 2 months worth
I
of
know,
Kindle Unlimited reading.
Who would have thought that?
We're starting on April. So we've got Alpha, Book 6, Vying for Ratings by Arthur Stone, Michael East, and Mikhail Yagupov.
This is different again. This is another take on a leveling system. A little bit different. There's a lot of numbers and crunching in this series.
Is that like where it displays like
No. So this is more the character internalizes a lot of the stuff he's doing. So you constantly get this internal dialogue of him counting shit. Yeah. It's not bad, but it's something that's I've found after probably the second book gets really, really jarring as the numbers get quite high.
Do you skip it?
No.
You just don't read it?
I kind of skim over it. It's still there. It's still important to the story, but it gets to the point where it's too much information. Like you could cut it down a lot. Yeah. But I think the problem is it just gets reiterated over and over again.
Yeah. So. Okay. All right. Infinite Realm, Book 5, The Aspects by Ivan Kal.
This is another cultivation series. This is an interesting one. This particular series starts off on Earth. Earth is going to get integrated into the greater systems of the infinite realms. Not the planet, just the people. So what happens here is the system turns up, pretty much. The main 2 characters, this is important in this series, there are 2 protagonists, both from this particular version of Earth, as you find out later on. You hear most of this within the first bit of the book anyway.
Yeah.
Essentially, they become the first people to get a kill on the planet, attacked by wolves, basically 10 seconds after the integration first happens. From there, stuff happens. One of the main characters essentially goes insane, and then they're the only 2 people left on the planet when it gets integrated. But at the end of the day, it's a cultivation series. It's very, very Western. It's really nice.
Where are we up to next? Immortal Great Souls, Book 2, The Rascor Plains by Phil Tucker.
This is an interesting series. The world premise is actually these people are in hell.
There is a demon-looking dude on the cover.
Yeah, they pull in energy. They then use that energy to augment themselves. In this case, they have basically demon-style stuff. The reason for that is, again, they're in hell. They're in a place called Bastion, which is the last bastion of humanity in hell. They were shunted here. They don't know why. The souls are immortal, so they keep coming back. It's one of those things where, because it's happened so much, a lot of history is lost and everything's falling apart.
Mark of the Fool 3 by J.M. Clark.
This is a lit RPG fantasy progression series.
Have we talked about this one yet?
Mark of the Fool? No,
Yeah,
not
okay.
yet. So Mark of the Fool is one of the gods on a particular continent, and this is important. Particular continent there's an evil in the continent, and he makes 5 champions to fight this evil. Mark of the Fool is one of the marks given to a champion. Who is the champion? He's called the Fool, essentially. The mark gives him really good learning abilities, so he can learn stuff really quick. But anything destructive, so magic, anything that would cause harm, any kind of damage, he can't do it. He has to fight the mark for that to work. So the series is basically him wanting to be a magician. He's getting there. He's about to go to a magic academy, and then he gets marked. And of course, that all throws everything out, and he's like, fuck this shit, no. And then...
I'm sensing a theme.
Theme, wife, you reckon? And then he goes on. It's about him finding ways to get around his restrictions.
All right, next we have The Way, Book 8, called The Seeker, Second Circle, by Mike Ignatov and Valeria Kornisenko.
So this is a cultivation series. A little bit different from a standard cultivation series. Essentially, the circles are the density of energy in the environment. The lower the circle, the less dense. I'm pretty sure isn't there's 4 circles total. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 as you go in. Which is why it's basically second circle. You can guess where he is in this series. The only thing I will say about this book is that it does not accurately portray the age of the main character. It starts with him rather young. Does a lot of crap that a young person just wouldn't even
That's so
do.
infuriating, isn't it?
I see this a lot, and it
Yeah.
pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
Like a 10-year-old would not go out on his own and do this kind of shit. It's like, no, he doesn't have the life experience to do this. You don't just chuck someone out in the middle of nowhere and they're like, hey, yeah, I can do that. It's like, no, that person would die within a week. Or they have interactions between a romantic interest, and it's like, this person is not old enough to even do this stuff, let alone have this. Yep. Good book though. Good series.
All right, this one I know is being traditionally published. You can buy it in physical copy now, and that is He Who Fights with Monsters by Shertaloon. This one was book 9.
Very good series.
It must be good if it's got enough traction to be traditionally published.
This is a very nice take on power progression. It's a different style of power progression, which is why it's not listed as cultivation. It is a cultivation story if you really go to it, but it's also lit RPG and the fact that it's numbers. There's a lot of stuff where this main character is broken and then recovers. So this is a really good cycle of the main character basically is literally, he's just essentially been cheated on by his girlfriend, and it's all just turned to shit. He's literally laying at home in his apartment in, I think, Melbourne or Sydney. I can't remember where he was. I think Sydney. And essentially gets sucked into another world because an archmage on the other side decides to try and summon one and fucks it up. So he turns up butt naked in a hedge mate and then starts getting attacked by things. So you can see where that kind of goes from there.
I feel like there's a few series you read where the authors are clearly Australian and based stuff in Australia.
Yes, and you
That's
see
cool.
it. And what I'm starting to see, so there's a lot of stuff like this, and I'm starting to see a lot more diversity in how they're writing styles. So there's quite a few British authors in here as well, and the way they write and stuff is very different, which makes good. It's a good change from a lot of the Americanized style of author.
Yeah.
Just gives you that little bit extra. The comedy's a bit more of Australian style, which, you know.
Which we appreciate.
So if you don't like people telling people to get stuffed, well, then probably not the series for you. But if you like a good Aussie humour, then, you know, there you go.
I feel like most of the people who are stuff on this channel are Australian.
Well, there you go. That's what you want.
That's our people.
Our people. There you go.
Okay. Next we have Way to the South, Book 18, Dragonheart by Kirill Klevansky. Do you remember this one?
Yes. This starts off very differently. So the main protagonist in this story is... I'm still not sure exactly what's happened with the main character. whether he's been shunted with his soul and memory intact into another universe. The author's still a bit about what's happening in that regard, because sometimes it's written as, yes, he's been shunted, and other times it's like, well, no, maybe it's all fake. So it's been very, very interesting. Essentially, it's very heavy cultivation. A lot of this is the main character has a lot of dramas, both mentally and physically. This is kind of a recovery story for this main character. So I wouldn't be surprised if I hit the very last book in this series and it's all just been a big recovery, like it's a mental space.
It was all a dream.
It was all a dream. Oh. The author has specifically stated when I first started reading this book that he had it all planned out. It was specifically going to be this long. And you can see that the books are very progressive and a fairly standard structure of moving forward.
And not much filler.
And very little filler. I mean, there is filler there, but not very much. It's quite
We like it. Okay, next we have Defiance of the Fall 9 by The First to Fire.
So this is a good series. Cultivation again. This is a series, if you like a character who's just going to beat your ass, this is for you. Apocalypse. Earth has been merged with 3 other planets into a much big planet. And obviously the races that inhabited the other worlds are also on this world.
This new planet.
The big difference in this is people who have the ability to cultivate were pulled off into a tutorial. The main character does not have the ability to cultivate and was stuck on the Earth when it got reforged. First thing that happens is demons try and kill him.
Obviously. Demons
aren't demons. They're just people from another world.
Mm.
So just a demonic empire, essentially. They're not demons. They're just described as looking what you would associate a standard horned demon would look like. Bipedal, upright, different coloured skin, that kind of stuff. Probably one of my favourites at the moment. We'll see how it goes.
Creation's Bane 4, Abyssal Plains by Kevin Sinclair.
You're going to have to remind me because there's a couple that are similar to this. We're still in April, mind you.
For Clive, death isn't the end.
I'm pretty sure what's happened is I accidentally clicked on this book.
Have you read the previous ones?
I don't think so.
So you don't think you've read this
one? I don't think I've... No, yes, sorry. No, that's not this one. Yes, no, I remember this series. I got confused there for a second. Too many. This is a cultivation style book. Again, pulled into another world. Yeah, no, it's good.
And I think we're going to finish just with April because there's been so many books. We've been recording for an hour. So this will be the last one. This is The Good Guys Book 14 of Slicing Men by Eric Ugland.
Good series. Some nice humour. Getting dragged out.
Well, book 14, that's a few.
Again, it's one of those ones where it starts off really strong and is starting to taper out. I don't know whether this is just because he's trying to get a bit more traction or whether he's just adding story as he goes. It's all good. It's definitely progressing in a very linear fashion. It's not jumping all over the place as if like it's unstructured. It's just long.
And more's coming. I can see the next one will come out in April 2024.
Yeah. The only good thing about this series is the author definitely takes time to go between the books. So there's a lot more polishing done, I suppose is the best way to do it. I'm starting to see people throw books out every few months and you really see the quality drop. Like the first few books are really good and then all of a sudden the quality is just in the toilet. Whether that's just because no one's going over the books for them, they're not getting that proofreading, or it's just time crunch, trying to get it done, throw it out so the algorithm can keep pushing them up, which I think is probably what's happening.
All right, so I'm going to count up how many books that you read in those 3 months and put it somewhere.
Here, there,
we currently pay $13.99 Australian per month for you to read however many books that was. And I think I'm getting good value for money.
Probably.
It's definitely... Ash churns through those Kindles a lot. You currently got the new wireless one.
So I don't have to plug it in. I can just go, oh, look, I'm finished. Charge.
Put it down on the charger.
Otherwise, it's like, oh, I'm reading. And then it goes, hey, guess what? Charge me, feed me. And then I'm like, yeah. And then it turns off. And I'm like, well, do.
I think we get good value for money. Let us know if you want more of these wrap-ups of LitRPG, Kindle Unlimited things that Ash reads, or if you just want more Ash in general.
She's selling me now. Look out. Price tag right here somewhere.
I'm going to monetize you. And if you have any questions about any of those books or recommendations for Ash, or what the hell is LitRPG really, leave them in the comments below or reach out to me on the socials. Ash does not do social media. So just text me and I will tell him. And I will see you again next time, and maybe we'll see Ashley again too. It depends how many likes.
Maybe even just take a photo and put a picture here, and then
actually,
talk, and then it'll be like, oh yes, Ashley's totally talking.
We could have a whole discussion about the Wheel of Time while you're at work. Bye.
Bye. Should we do something about clicking a button and liking and belling?
No.
We don't do that?
No, we don't do that.
That's all right then.
We don't ask for subscriptions. That's cringe.